everyone. My name is Frank Walsh. I'm Vice President of Solution Engineering here at White Ops. I'm excited to be participating today to talk a little bit about the top 5 automated attack techniques being used and affecting financial services industry and strategies we believe here at White Ops can help solve those problems for businesses today. I'm joining you from the East Coast bright and early, so thank you everyone for taking time out of your afternoon. Just to tell you a little bit about White Ops was founded on the mission statement that we would keep it human, or keep compute or business activity human. The better part of a decade ago, we worked to keep services provided by financial organizations, e-commerce, healthcare, social media, connected TV, marketing, advertising, music, all these types of services human. What do I mean by that, and why is that important? We'll dive a little bit into that in just a few minutes here, but beyond that, just a little more about White Ops and our reach. We were founded in 2012. We work with a large volume of organizations in advertising and all other aspects of business to deliver this ability to detect and protect from automated attacks at a staggering volume of over 10 trillion transactions or interactions per week. And that's a very big number, but as you think about how many different things people do within an application and how often some form of input or some sort of compute is associated with those activities, White Ops plays a role in defending them, no matter if you're searching, shopping, or socializing through the web. I want to start our conversation out with a quote from our founder here at White Ops, and I want to talk a little bit about how we think about the world today and the productivity that compute allows us to achieve. So here we talk a little bit about the speed, scale, and reach through this quote that you might achieve if you were able to use the power of a million humans or millions of humans. But I want you to take that same question and I want you to think about how that same productivity, speed, scale, and reach could be applied by a malicious attacker to achieve a malicious end if they were able to do it at large scale. And really, that's what we're here to talk about. Not what a good human could do with this power, not what a bad human could do with this power, but what an evil human might be able to do with this power at their fingertips. And really, this is the problem that we face today. This is the problem of sophisticated automated attacks and sophisticated botnets that reach not just the front door of our application, but deeply inside our application as the features and functions drive our users' activities and even the purchasing and other human activities that are driven as a result of using a system. So attacks today, sophisticated bot-based attacks, are not just knocking at the front door of your application. They're now reaching within the application landscape, and there are top 5. There's a top 5 we're recognizing are predominantly targeting financial services. The first and foremost that we're seeing target and breach financial service organizations are account takeover scenarios, credential stuffing scenarios in which a attacker either aggregates an account list from a dump that they retrieved from the dark net. Maybe someone else's site was compromised, maybe a phishing attack was run at scale, and this large list of account usernames and passwords is basically passed all around the web, and when an attacker reaches this, gets their hands on this list, they need to validate what accounts might be valid within that account pool that they downloaded for further weaponization. So that's the first problem that we're seeing, this idea that account takeover can actually both occur through some dump of accounts that have been discovered on the web, or alternatively through some sort of brute forcing, where the login interfaces of your applications are attacked repeatedly by attackers. I just saw some great work published by KnowBe4 around how to defeat MFA or 2FA solutions. So If you believe that sending your customers a text message or having them authenticate with a technology that validates their legitimacy beyond their submission of a password is an answer, I encourage you to go read the work by the brilliant team at KnowBe4 about how MFA and 2FA solutions can be bypassed. Beyond this idea that attackers will aggregate and misuse accounts that come from other users that are legitimate, we're seeing attackers create accounts in large volume and perform new account fraud. And quite often we're finding that attackers are not just doing this at the time of their attack, but are often aggregating and creating new accounts well in advance of actually weaponizing and using these accounts for some malicious outcome. The next on the top 5 that we're seeing is the idea of transaction fraud, the idea that attackers can weaponize and abuse the buying and selling features of a platform. I think in the financial services industry, we saw some very interesting attack techniques or sophisticated outcomes sought recently. We saw one attacker in the United States pursued by law enforcement for a micro deposit strategy where the relationship between a financial services provider and bank accounts was validated through very small deposits, and this attacker was able to abuse that deposit validation feature of an application at volume very, very quickly. And then beyond the idea of affecting transactions that might occur through a system, there's these very big problems that are presented by data skewing and data theft. Certainly, we all are coming to the realization that data is the new oil, that our businesses are driven by decisions made through accurate data, and both our technology practices and more broadly our business practices, even our cyber practices, are driven by the preponderance of data and the patterns we find in that data. We're seeing a lot of ways in which attackers recognize this and then abuse the capabilities of large-scale automated attacks to skew data toward scenarios that would support their interests. And then finally, data theft. We're seeing a number of different scenarios where attackers who achieve presence on devices can abuse that presence that they have on devices to either steal data as legitimate users browse sessions on infected devices, and or at large scale through the new account aggregation and new account creation and account aggregation activities, even steal IP and proprietary data that exists behind an application's login. So those are the top 5 attack scenarios we're seeing target and affect the financial services industry. There are others that we're seeing. We have seen the abuse of buying and selling functions where services or products are hoarded. We have seen fraudulent use of credit cards, loyalty programs, memberships. We have seen card cracking where cards have absent pieces of information like a security code or an expiration date, and that information is extracted over time. We're seeing ways in which attackers can use automated attacks to identify software vulnerabilities that exist within application landscapes, catalog them, and then subsequently revisit as soon as a 0-day is announced. And we're seeing all different means by which data is poisoned to affect the trust and credibility of your solution as folks, customers and potential customers visit and use your site. So those are the sophisticated outcomes we're seeing sought by attackers. Want to talk a little bit beyond the sophisticated outcomes. How are sophisticated automated attack technologies like sophisticated bots bypassing the world of detection technologies that exist today, the features that are embedded inside a number of application security solutions? And really on the left here we have what I would describe as yesterday's simple bots, which lived in data centers, which relied on simple cookies or simple ways in which they identified as being a human to an application, which behaved like bots, performing transactions or activities very, very quickly, through forms of keyboard automation, and who were supported by uh, hacktivists for beer money, for really just to be able to promote their name or to basically deface a website. Those are the bots and the automated attack techniques we saw being employed yesterday. Now let's talk about today's sophisticated bots. The first data point I want to point you to is the fact that 75% of those live on user devices, meaning these are infected machines, infected IoT devices, infected mobile devices, infected connected TV devices, all different types of devices. And when I say they're infected, I don't mean to say that the only one using them is the attacker. Attackers find ways to live on and be present during a legitimate session. So as you're receiving legitimate transactions, legitimate interactions from the legitimate user, beneath the surface, that machine might also be sending illegitimate transactions or interactions to your web landscape, to your application landscape. That speaks to the third point, which is that these technologies are able to mimic human behaviors, either because they're hiding beneath legitimate user activities occurring and being supported by a user that unsuspectingly is using an infected browser or an infected PC, or more broadly because attackers have recognized that replicating things like mouse movement, the misspelling of words, keyboard patterns of typing and letters timing and spacing is of real value and importance in bypassing traditional bot management solutions. And so attackers have grown very, very accustomed to this and are now building bot technologies to act like real humans. Finally, to support all of these sophisticated locations that bots can reside, to act like humans, to make sure that these botnets remain healthy, we're seeing criminal enterprises act like real businesses with executive teams, with strategic goals, with sprints, and with their own markets where they can sell these technologies. On the darknet, if you wanted access to a sophisticated botnet to pursue a specific company that you had interest in performing some sophisticated attack against, you don't need to go out and infect 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 devices. You can, in the short term, purchase access to a botnet and do whatever you'd like with it. The technology has become very modular. The technologies have been set up to support the outcome that the attacker or would-be attacker purchasing and using the system has at their fingertips. So those are just some components of sophisticated bot practice and the outcomes that are being sought by attackers. Just a little bit about White Ops. Here's an example of an organization we engaged with that really couldn't accurately answer if they had a bot traffic problem. They thought they had 4% bot traffic, and in a short engagement, within a week of implementing White Ops, they were able to identify that 45% of the traffic reaching their website actually came from bot traffic. It's a staggering number, but White Ops is not the only organization that's pointing to this volume of bot-based traffic. Certainly there are good bots. There are technologies like Google search crawlers and tools like If This Then That and Alexa that help us get our jobs done or help our lives easier. But bad bots play a big role in the traffic we're seeing in the world today. And if you can't answer for your web landscapes how much bots are knocking at the front door or moving inside your web landscapes, that's really the first question that we hope to be able to help you answer in an evaluation of the White Ops solution. Beyond helping a specific client, we focus on the concept of collective protection and have worked to take down some of the largest botnets in the world. Customers of White Ops are protected collectively, so
one attacker who tries to target a single customer of White Ops immediately raises the bar within milliseconds of directing that attack toward a web landscape, immediately raises the bar as they would try and target any other customer of White Ops or any other really any provider on the web. Beyond that, we have relationships with law enforcement that help us strike back at the enemy. Really not just making failure a reason for them to try again, but making failure a scenario that could lead to some imprisonment or hardship. And so I encourage you to visit our site and read about these major botnet takedowns that we've been part of. Just to talk a little bit about the approach we believe does work here at White Ops, we employ a multi-layer approach whereby we gather technical evidence participating in over 10 trillion interactions a week. We then evaluate that information at scale. We've been doing this for over a decade using elements of machine learning and also a very talented global threat intelligence system. So we really believe this multi-pronged approach whereby both technology and humans with deep proficiency in bot protection and bot management and stop bot printing really play a role in this continuous adaptation of both our machine learning models and the human practices that are around them. Just a little bit more information in the last minute or two here. Our decisioning engine collects information from a user's browser, from a user's interactions in more than 2,500 different ways and applies over 200 different algorithms to identifying automated attack technology in place. As I mentioned, we see over 10 trillion interactions observed a week. We're able to take that information and apply all forms of ML modeling to it to identify anomalies in the traffic directed toward your enterprise applications. We have one of the best global threat research and intelligence teams I've ever had the privilege to work with, who have proficiencies in all types of technologies, languages, and backgrounds building and defending the top internet platforms of the world today. And we take all of this and over the last better part of a decade have built approaches by which we can very quickly adapt our approaches to improving our models. So let's revisit that quote and say, if you could look like a million humans, what would you do? We believe that the only way to defeat the power of a million bad or evil devices is with the power of a trillion interactions and the intelligence derived from those trillion interactions. I encourage you to reach out and talk to us about the challenges you might be facing to really get a better understanding of how much automated attack is playing a role in the reaching and accessing and activity that's occurring behind the front door in your application landscapes. And I encourage you to help us keep it human, to really make sure that compute cannot be abused by this small army of malicious attackers that are able to use the power or abuse the power of millions in the world today. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to talk a little bit about White Ops. I'd be excited to meet any of you. My LinkedIn is at the very bottom of this slide, and I know our team here at White Ops would be encouraged to help you answer some of these really tough questions and protect you from these types of attacks. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.